Hi, my name is Rickard, and in this video I will show you what I've been up to in June 2021. I decided to switch my main laptop, and I also installed the latest version of Fedora on it. One tool that I rely heavily on is the rlselect command line tool, and that is currently written for Python 2. The latest version of Fedora, although it ships with a version of Python 2, doesn't ship with all the libraries that rlselect needs, and Python 2 is deprecated anyway, so I realized I had to rewrite rlselect to Python 3, or rather port it to Python 3. And this is something that I've thought about doing before, but now I had an actual need. When porting rlselect to Python 3, I also wanted to rewrite it using a Literate programming tool. And I'd previously thought about using the SmartNotes application as a Literate programming tool, but it lacked support now, so I thought maybe this is a good time to try to add Literate programming support to SmartNotes and try to rewrite or try to port rlselect using SmartNotes. I started by writing a script that could convert our Literate documents to SmartNotes documents. They are somewhat compatible, and for my purposes at the moment, I could convert everything that I needed. So I tried out the conversion script on the SmartNotes application itself. So SmartNotes is written using our Literate. So I converted that document to a SmartNotes document. So SmartNotes was now written in itself. So now I had a SmartNotes document with code notes, but there was no way to edit the code notes from within SmartNotes. And this the only way to modify the code was to modify the generated files, like the py files that was generated from the SmartNotes document, or previously the rliterate document. So I decided to write a script that would examine changes in the external files and port those changes or merge those changes back into the SmartNotes code notes. So then I could edit the py files as usual, and then run the script to merge those changes back into the SmartNotes document, and it would figure out in which code nodes the changes should go. I had read about a similar approach that the Leo program used, so that's why I thought this approach would be possible, and it actually worked really well. So at this point, I could edit the smartnotes.py file and then merge the changes back into the smartnotes.notes file and continue modifying the application like that. So I used that workflow to add support to edit and create code notes from within SmartNotes. So at this point, I could use only the SmartNotes application to create code notes, and those code notes would then be written to external files. So at this point, I could use SmartNotes as a Literate programming tool to try to write rlselect, the rlselect port in it. I started by importing all the existing rlselect py files into code notes in a new SmartNotes document, and I used a minimal set of code notes just to get everything working as quickly as possible. So at this point, I could generate a single py file, which was the new version of rlselect, and I could continue working on porting it to Python 3. So I made the changes required to port Python 2 to Python 3, and I got that working fairly quickly. It wasn't that difficult. So the next step would be to split all the code notes that I created in a SmartNotes document into smaller parts, so like maybe each function is in its own code note. So that way I could annotate smaller portions of the code and document it. But for that, the SmartNotes application needed a few more features, or at least it needed that to make that workflow, to make it not tedious to do that. So I continued to improve the Literate programming support in SmartNotes. I added the ability to split code notes into multiple parts, and I also added automatic links. So if one code note is included in another, those two notes will be automatically linked. So this process of going back and forth between I want to write rlselect using SmartNotes Literate programming support and finding out that the support is not good enough, going back to SmartNotes, improving the support, and yeah, going back and forth. And now also when Smart Notes is written in itself, it's a really good opportunity to learn what features are missing. So this experience has been really good. Now I want to show you what the Literate programming features looks like in Smart Notes and how I've used them so far. Here we are in the terminal, and I've set up a demo folder where I have the original smartnotes.rliterate document. So the first thing I wanted to show was the conversion script. So in the parent folder, there is this rliterate to smartnotes conversion script. And by default, it will convert something called smartnotes.rliterate. So let's try and run that and see what it does. Now we have a few more files. So first of all, we have this smartnotes.notes file. That's the smartnotes document, the converted document. And then we also have these two Py files that are generated from the code notes in the smartnotes document. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. So here is the rliterate document converted to a smartnotes document. And I believe this is the top note in the rliterate document, smart notes. So you can see like this is the first page in the rliterate document, and the structure is preserved. And here is the smartnotes.py file, and it has these sections for imports, constants, and corresponding code notes are shown automatically. So these are the pink lines are automatic links to code nodes that are included in this smartnotes.py code note. So we can navigate around and find code notes. So this is what it looks like now in the smart notes. So next I want to show you how the external editing works. So here is a code note that contains the function strip last word. So I want to try to edit that in the external Py file and then merge the changes back into the SmartNotes document. So let's open an editor and let's find this strip last word function. And we can just add something to it and say hello. So now we're editing an external file. Now when we open the SmartNotes document again, this will happen. So we will get this automatically created note which says consolidation report, and it says that these files were the changes were merged successfully, and when the files are generated again they will result in the generated files. And the linked notes here on the right are the notes, the code notes that were changed during the merge process. So we can see here that the strip last word function is changed and it now contains the hello. So we can delete this consolidation report and we're back here. So we can edit this code note and we can remove this hello again, save it, and if we close SmartNotes and open the Py file again, we can see that it is gone. So that's how you can edit external files, merge the changes back, and go back and forth between SmartNotes and external files. Next I want to show how to edit code notes and specifically how to split code notes into multiple chunks. So let's open the SmartNotes document again. So let's take another example. Let's find a class which is not split. Just take something here. So here we have a table note class. It is not split into more chunks. So I would like to have all these separate methods in separate code notes. So let's see how we can do that. First of all, I edit this note and you can see there is some new syntax for code notes. So the first thing we need to do is to create a chunk where the methods can go. So we do that by saying Let's call it table note. And we also need to specify these blank lines before equals 1. And then we can write a split like this. And what will happen is this text will go into the original note, and the text below the split will go into a newly created note, which has all the file path and chunk path and all the other properties preserved. So if we save that, we can see that the original note now only contains this table note placeholder. And if we open up the search bar, we can see here the rest of the note goes here. So here are all the methods. But it's now in the incorrect place. It's now rendered inside classes. And we wanted to render it inside table note. So if we edit this one, we can edit the chunk path and say classes.tableNote. And when we do that, we can see that an automatic link is created. So now this center node is included in the table note, and this pink line is created automatically. So what we would like now is to split this once again so that all these three methods are in separate code nodes. And we also need to adjust the indentation. So let's fix the indentation like that and add 2 splits. That will result in 3 code nodes like this. So now we can, the original code node only contains the init method, but if we go back to this table node, we can see all 3 methods are now automatically linked and included in table node. So that's how you can work with code nodes from inside Smart Nodes. If we have a look in the external file, the table node class should look exactly the same because we haven't changed anything that would result in a different rendered file. We just changed the structure in the Smart Nodes document. So that's the current state of the Literate programming support in Smart Nodes. When working on the Literate programming support for Smart Nodes, I noticed that the Literate programming approach feels different in Smart Nodes compared to our Literate. In our Literate, you write like a single document, a single linear document where you have code blocks that are rendered to files. But the focus is on this single linear document. In Smart Nodes, you write smaller pieces of nodes that you connect in various ways. So it's like a web of nodes that are connected in useful ways. And it doesn't make sense to generate a linear document from a Smart Nodes document. And sometimes a linear document might be useful for understanding, like if you're writing a tutorial or writing a story explaining how something works, that might be useful. And I'm trying to figure out how that fits into the Smart Nodes Literate programming approach. One option would be to generate like an external file that contains like a documentation story or like a tutorial. And you can do that from inside Smart Nodes with code nodes. But the Smart Nodes document itself will always be like a web of nodes, and it doesn't really make sense to try to generate a single document from it. I will keep working with it and use it and see what it feels like. Aside from programming, I also continued to learn more about my new hobby of videography. So I learned more about how to properly use my camera when it comes to white balance and exposure. I also learned about how to avoid flicker from light sources by using different frame rates and shutter speeds. I found a good resource from Red where you can enter different frame rates and where you live, and it will tell you what shutter speed to use, for example. So I don't fully understand the logic behind it, but at least now I can avoid some flicker in my recordings. I also tested what happens to sound clips when you make a cut in Kdenlive. So if you cut a sound clip, the 2 edges of the clip might not align properly, so there might be a glitch and you might hear some artifacts from that. And I compared it to how Ardor does it, and in Ardor it automatically adds fade-ins and fade-outs, so there's a smooth transition between two clips. In Kdenlive, that is not done automatically, so my conclusion is that you might get sound artifacts if the two clips aren't lined up perfectly. I'm not really sure if that's a problem in practice. I mean, should you always add fade-ins and fade-outs? Maybe just listen and see if it's good enough. I also thought that my Rode VideoMic NTG was kind of noisy, so I tried different recording settings and used different devices to record, and the results were kind of similar. So I guess I should try to just be closer to the microphone so the loudness level between the main subject and the background noise is bigger, so that the background noise won't be so noticeable. The other option, I guess, is to just try to remove the background noise in post-production. So this time last year I was working on projectional editing support for our Literate, and I'm no longer convinced that projectional editing is good, or perhaps I'm just so used to tools such as Vim and command line tools that if I can't use them, I'm unhappy. I feel like I can't do my job properly. Or it might be that I haven't used a good projectional editing system yet. So at least my focus has shifted now towards writing tools that are more practically useful for me. And at the moment, projectional editing is not something I focus on, but I still think it might be a good idea and I might want to explore it more, but for now I'm not focusing on it. Also, this time last year I was reading a bit about compilers, and that's still a topic that I'm interested in, and I hope to come back to it and write more about it and do some more with compiler stuff. So that's it for this update, and I'll see you next month. Bye.